At family meeting, I said, I can't wait for our vacation. Then my dad replied with a laugh, It's only for family, without you. They all laughed loudly. I just nodded and left. 5 days later, my mom tried to withdraw $5,000. But then I blocked the card and wrote, Pay without me. Panic ensued. I'm 26 years old and I've been dealing with my family's dysfunction for as long as I can remember. My name is Sarah, and I'm the middle child in a family of 5 kids. My older sister Emma is 30, my younger sister Chloe is 24, and I have twin younger brothers, Jake and Ryan, who are both 22. Throughout my entire life, I've somehow managed to be the family scapegoat while also being their unofficial ATM. Let me explain the dynamics here because they're important to understand what happened. My parents, David and Linda, have always had this weird way of treating their children. Emma was the golden child who could do no wrong, even when she dropped out of college 3 times and moved back home with her boyfriend and their 2 kids. Chloe was the baby girl who got coddled and spoiled beyond belief. The twins were the beloved boys who were going to carry on the family name and make everyone proud. And then there was me, the responsible one, the one who never caused problems, always helped out, and somehow became the family's personal bank account without ever being asked if I was okay with that arrangement. I graduated from college with a degree in computer science and landed a great job at a tech company in the city. I've been working there for 4 years now and I make really good money. About $85,000 a year, which in our area is pretty solid. I live in a nice apartment, drive a reliable car, and I've managed to save up a decent amount of money by being smart with my finances. The problem is, my family has somehow gotten it into their heads that my success means I owe them something. It started small, you know? Mom would ask me to help with groceries when money was tight. Dad needed help with a car repair. Emma needed help with her kids' daycare costs because her boyfriend lost his job again. The twins needed money for textbooks. At first, I didn't mind helping out. Family is family, right? But it became a pattern. Every month, there was something. Every family gathering, someone had their hand out. And it was never framed as asking for help. It was always presented as an expectation, like I should be grateful to have the opportunity to support everyone else. The worst part was that none of them ever seemed grateful. It was like they felt entitled to my money because I was doing well. When I helped Emma with her rent, she complained that it wasn't enough. When I bought groceries for my parents, my dad made comments about how I could afford the name brand stuff instead of the generic. When I paid for the twins' car insurance, they asked why I couldn't just buy them a better car. But I kept helping because I thought that's what family was supposed to do. I thought if I just kept being generous and supportive, eventually they would appreciate me and treat me like I mattered. I was wrong. The vacation thing started about 3 months ago. My parents announced at Sunday dinner that they wanted to plan a big family vacation for the summer. They said it had been too long since we all spent quality time together, and they wanted to rent a beach house for a week. Everyone got excited, making plans and talking about all the fun things we'd do. I was actually really looking forward to it. Despite everything, I do love my family, and the idea of a week at the beach with everyone sounded amazing. I even started looking up activities we could do and restaurants we could try. But then came the money conversation. As usual, my dad started talking about the costs. The beach house rental, food for the week, gas for the drive, activities, etc. He estimated it would cost about $4,000 total for the whole family. And then, without even asking me, he just assumed I would pay for it. Sarah can cover the house rental, he said casually, like it was already decided. She's doing well financially, and the rest of us can split the other costs. I was a little taken aback, but I didn't say anything right away. The house rental was going to be about $2,500 for the week. It wasn't an amount that would break me, but it was a significant chunk of money, and the casual way he just assigned it to me rubbed me the wrong way. But I agreed, because that's what I always did. Over the next few weeks, the vacation planning continued. Group texts were flying back and forth with ideas and suggestions. Everyone was excited. Emma was talking about how great it would be for her kids to see the ocean. The twins were planning to rent jet skis. Chloe was already shopping for new beach outfits. I was still looking forward to it, even though I was the one funding a huge portion of it. I figured it would be worth it to have a good time with my family and maybe finally feel like I belonged. Then came the family meeting 3 weeks ago that changed everything. We were all gathered at my parents' house for our usual Sunday dinner. After we ate, my dad said he wanted to have a family meeting to finalize the vacation plans. Everyone gathered in the living room, and he started going over the details. Okay, so we've got the beach house booked for July 15th through 22nd, he said, reading from a piece of paper. That's 7 nights, 8 days. The house sleeps 8 people comfortably, which is perfect. I was doing the math in my head. 8 people. My parents. That's 2. Emma, her boyfriend Mark, and their 2 kids. That's 4 more. The twins. That's 6. Chloe. That's 7. And me. That's 8. Emma, you and Mark will take the master bedroom since you've got the kids, Dad continued. Mom and I will take the second bedroom. Chloe gets the third bedroom because she's the only other girl. And the twins can take the fourth bedroom. I waited for him to mention where I would sleep. Maybe there was a pull-out couch or a den that could work as a bedroom, but he just kept talking about other details: meal planning, activity schedules, driving arrangements. I can't wait for our vacation, I finally said, trying to inject myself into the conversation. My dad looked at me with this confused expression, like he didn't understand why I was talking. Then his face changed, and he actually started laughing. It's only for family without you, he said, still chuckling like he'd made the funniest joke in the world. The room went completely silent for about 2 seconds, and then everyone else started laughing too. Emma was giggling behind her hand. The twins were cracking up. Even Chloe was smiling. My mom was shaking her head like I'd said something silly. Wait, what? I said, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. Come on, Sarah, Emma said, still smiling. You don't really want to spend a week crammed in a house with all of us and the kids, do you? You're too sophisticated for a family beach vacation. Besides, Jake added, someone needs to stay home and keep an eye on things. Make sure nobody breaks into Mom and Dad's house while we're gone. And you're always complaining about being tired from work, Ryan chimed in. This way you can have a nice, quiet week to yourself. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to correct this insane misunderstanding. But my dad just shrugged. It makes sense, sweetie, my mom said. The house only has 4 bedrooms, and everyone else has partners or kids to think about. You'd just be the odd one out anyway. I felt like I was in some kind of alternate reality. They were talking about excluding me from a family vacation that I was paying for. A vacation they had planned without ever mentioning that I wouldn't be invited. But I already paid for the house, I said quietly. Well, yeah, my dad said. And we really appreciate that. But that doesn't mean you have to come. Think of it as your contribution to the family. You're helping give everyone else a nice vacation. The room was still filled with this casual, cheerful energy, like they'd just solved a minor logistics problem. Nobody seemed to think there was anything wrong with taking my money and then excluding me from the trip. I just sat there for a moment, trying to process what was happening. These were the people who had raised me, who claimed to love me, and they were casually discussing why I wasn't welcome on a family trip that I was funding. Okay, I said finally. I understand. And I did understand. I understood that to them, I wasn't really family. I was a bank account with legs. I was useful for funding their lives and solving their problems, but I wasn't someone they actually wanted to spend time with. I stood up and walked out of the room. I could hear them continuing the conversation behind me, already moving on to discussing what groceries they'd need to buy for the trip. I drove home in a daze. I sat in my apartment that night, staring at the wall, trying to figure out how I'd gotten to this point. How had I let myself become so invisible to the people who were supposed to care about me the most? But then I started getting angry. Really angry. I had spent years supporting these people. I had given them thousands and thousands of dollars. I had helped them out of countless financial problems. I had been there for every crisis, every emergency, every time they needed someone to bail them out. And this was how they repaid me. By taking my money and excluding me from a family vacation because I was too sophisticated and would be the odd one out. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. And the anger felt good. It felt better than the hurt and confusion. It felt like clarity. I spent the next few days doing some research. I looked into the beach house rental and discovered that my dad had put it on his credit card. But here's the thing. It was a credit card that I was an authorized user on. My parents had added me to their account a few years ago when they were having some credit issues and needed to improve their credit score. I had been making payments on it regularly to help them out. I also realized that I had been added to several of their other accounts over the years. My dad's checking account, where I regularly deposited money to help with their bills. My mom's savings account, where I had been putting money for family emergencies. I had access to pretty much all of their finances because they had needed my help managing them. It occurred to me that they were about to go on an expensive vacation using my money from accounts that I had access to while excluding me from the trip. I started making some calls. First, I called the beach house rental company. I explained that there had been a family emergency and we needed to cancel the reservation. They said they could refund 50% of the cost, since it was more than 30 days out. I took the partial refund and had it deposited into my own account. Then I started removing myself from their financial accounts. I took my name off the checking account, but not before transferring out every penny I had put into it over the years. I went back through my records and calculated exactly how much money I had given them for emergencies and help with bills over the past 2 years. It came to just over $12,000. I withdrew that amount from the savings account and transferred it to my own savings. I also called the credit card company and had myself removed as an authorized user, but not before canceling several recurring payments that I had been covering for them. By the time I was done, my parents' financial situation had gone from stable to precarious. They were suddenly responsible for their own bills again, with significantly less money in their accounts and no safety net. I didn't hear anything from them for 5 days. On Friday, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. It was my mom, and she sounded panicked. "Sarah, honey, there's something wrong with our bank accounts," she said. "I tried to withdraw money for the vacation groceries, and the card was declined. And when I checked our balance, there's barely anything left. I think we've been hacked." "That's terrible, Mom," I said calmly. "Have you called the bank?" "Yes, and they said all the transactions were legitimate. But that can't be right. Someone withdrew $12,000 from our savings account, and the beach house payment got refunded for some reason." I said. "That is weird." "Sarah, we need your help," she said, and I could hear the desperation in her voice. "Can you call the bank and see if you can figure out what happened? You're so good with this financial stuff." "Actually, Mom, I know exactly what happened," I said. "You do? Oh, thank God. Can you fix it? I withdrew the money I had given you over the past 2 years, and I canceled the beach house reservation." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "What do you mean you withdrew the money?" she said finally. "I mean I took back the money that belonged to me. The money I gave you to help with bills and emergencies. The money I put into accounts that you added me to because you needed my help managing your finances. But that money was for the family. You can't just take it back." "Sure I can. It was my money to begin with, and since I'm not family enough to be included in the family vacation, I figured I'd keep my money to myself." "Sarah, you're being ridiculous. We explained why you couldn't come on the vacation. It wasn't personal." "You're right, Mom. It wasn't personal. It was financial. You wanted my money but not my presence, so now you can have neither." I could hear her talking to someone in the background, probably my dad. "Your father wants to talk to you," she said. "I don't want to talk to him." "Sarah Elizabeth, you get back here right now and fix this mess." My dad's voice boomed through the phone. He had grabbed it from my mom. "No," I said simply. What do you mean, no? You've ruined our vacation and stolen our money. I didn't steal anything. I took back my own money. Money that I gave you to help with your bills, not to fund a vacation that I was excluded from. That money was a gift. You can't just take back gifts." "It wasn't a gift, Dad. It was help. Help that you've been taking for granted for years, and now you don't get it anymore." "You're being a selfish brat," he said. "No, I'm being smart. I'm finally learning not to set myself on fire to keep other people warm." I hung up the phone. Within an hour, I had texts from Emma, Chloe, and both twins. They were all variations of the same theme. How could I be so selfish? How could I ruin everyone's vacation? How could I be so cruel to the family? Emma's text was particularly rich. "I can't believe you're punishing the kids because you're mad at Mom and Dad. My children were so excited about seeing the ocean." I texted back, "Then you should have thought of that before excluding me from a family vacation that I was paying for." The twins' texts were more aggressive. "What the hell is wrong with you? Do you know how much money we spent on beach clothes and activities?" I replied, "Maybe you can return them, or find another way to pay for your vacation." Chloe's text was the most manipulative. "I thought you loved us. I thought family meant something to you." I guess I was wrong. I didn't respond to that one at all. By Sunday, I was getting phone calls from extended family members. Apparently, my parents had started calling everyone, telling them how I had stolen their vacation money and ruined the family trip. They were painting me as the villain, the ungrateful daughter who had turned her back on the family in their time of need. But here's the thing about family gossip. It goes both ways. When my Aunt Carol called to lecture me about my behavior, I calmly explained the whole situation. How I had been excluded from a vacation I was paying for. How my family had been using me as a personal ATM for years. How they had laughed when my dad said the vacation was only for family without me. Aunt Carol went quiet. "They said you didn't want to go," she said finally. "They said I didn't want to go. Or they said I wasn't invited. They said you were too busy with work to go on a family trip. Aunt Carol, I want you to think about something. If I was too busy to go on the trip, why would I pay for it?" I could practically hear the gears turning in her head. "Oh," she said quietly. "Yeah. Oh." I had similar conversations with several other family members over the next few days. Once people heard the whole story, Their attitudes changed pretty quickly. It's one thing to ask someone not to come on a trip. It's another thing entirely to exclude them and still expect them to pay for it. My parents must have realized that their narrative wasn't working, because by Wednesday, they had changed tactics. Instead of calling me selfish, they were now trying guilt and manipulation. My mom showed up at my office. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, she wasn't wearing makeup, and she had clearly been crying. She was wearing this old sweater that she always wore when she was trying to look pitiful. "Sarah, sweetheart, we need to talk," she said. I was embarrassed. My coworkers were staring, and my mom was clearly having some kind of breakdown in the middle of my workplace. "Mom, you can't just show up here," I said. "I'm at work." "I know, but you won't answer my calls. And we're desperate, honey. We need your help." "Let's go outside," I said, not wanting to make more of a scene. We went to a coffee shop across the street, and my mom immediately launched into her sob story. They couldn't afford the vacation now. They had already told everyone it was happening. Emma's kids were going to be heartbroken. The twins had already requested time off work. Chloe had been looking forward to this for months. "You're punishing everyone because you're upset about a misunderstanding," she said. "It wasn't a misunderstanding, Mom. You all laughed when Dad said I wasn't invited. You thought it was funny. We weren't laughing at you, honey. We were just surprised that you thought you were coming. Why would I not think I was coming to a family vacation? Because you're always so busy, and you don't really enjoy spending time with all of us together. You usually leave early from family dinners. You don't come to the kids' birthday parties." I stared at her. "Mom, I leave early from family dinners because you spend the entire time asking me for money or telling me what I should be doing with my life. I don't come to the kids' birthday parties because nobody invites me. Emma posts about them on Facebook after they happen." My mom looked uncomfortable. "That's not... I mean, you're always welcome." "Am I?" "Because it doesn't feel that way. It feels like I'm only welcome when you need money." "That's not true, Sarah. We love you." "Do you?" "Because it feels like you love my bank account. You love my stability. You love my ability to solve your problems. But you don't actually like spending time with me." My mom started crying again. "That's not fair. You're our daughter. Of course we love you. Then why was it so easy to exclude me from a family vacation? Why did everyone laugh when Dad said it was only for family without me? Why didn't a single person in that room stick up for me?" She didn't have an answer for that. "I need you to put the money back," she said finally. "We'll figure out the vacation thing later, but we need that money for bills." "What bills?" I asked. "The mortgage, the car payments, groceries, everything." "Mom, that money was never meant for your regular bills. It was money I gave you for emergencies. You shouldn't be depending on it for basic expenses." "But we are depending on it. We have been for a while now." And that's when it hit me. They hadn't just been taking my money for occasional help. They had restructured their entire budget around my contributions. They were living beyond their means and using my money to make up the difference. "How long?" I asked. "How long what?" "How long have you been using my money to pay your regular bills?" She looked down at her coffee cup. "Maybe a year or so." "A year?" "Mom, I thought I was helping with emergencies. I didn't know you were using my money to live on. It wasn't like that. It helped. You were doing so well and we were struggling, and it seemed like you didn't mind helping." "I didn't mind helping with emergencies. I mind being your secret source of income." "It's not like that." "It's exactly like that. You've been taking my money every month and then excluding me from the family because I'm just the weird, antisocial daughter who doesn't fit in. I'm good enough to fund your lifestyle, but not good enough to include in your lives." My mom was full-on sobbing now, and people in the coffee shop were staring. I felt bad for her, but I also felt angry. This was exactly what she always did. She would create a crisis and then cry until someone fixed it for her. "I'm not putting the money back, Mom," I said quietly, "and I'm not going to keep paying your bills." "But what are we supposed to do?" "You're supposed to figure it out. Like adults. Like everyone else in the world does." "Sarah, please. We're family." "No, Mom. Family doesn't exclude people and then expect them to pay for the privilege. Family doesn't laugh when someone gets hurt. Family doesn't take and take and take without ever giving back." I stood up to leave. "If you walk away now, you'll regret it," she said, and her voice had changed. The crying had stopped, and now she sounded angry. "Family is all you have. You don't have friends. You don't have a boyfriend. You don't have anyone else. You need us more than we need you." I turned back to look at her. "You know what, Mom? You're right. I don't have many people in my life, but I'd rather be alone than be around people who only value me for my money." I left her sitting there and went back to work. That night, I got a group text from the family chat. It was from my dad. Thanks to Sarah's selfishness, the family vacation is canceled. I hope everyone knows who to blame for ruining our summer plans. The responses came flooding in immediately. Emma sent a long paragraph about how disappointed her kids were. The twins sent angry messages about how I had changed and become a terrible person. Chloe sent crying emojis. I left the group chat. Over the next few weeks, I got sporadic attempts at contact from various family members. My dad tried calling once to tell me that they had figured out a way to pay for a smaller vacation, but they wanted me to know that I wasn't invited to that one either. He seemed to think this was some kind of punishment that would make me realize my mistake. Emma sent me a Facebook message telling me that she was disappointed in who I had become, and that her children were asking why Aunt Sarah didn't love them anymore. The twins mostly left me alone, but I saw through mutual social media connections that they were telling people I had stolen money from our parents. Chloe was the only one who seemed conflicted. She sent me a few texts over the weeks, mostly asking if I was okay. But when I tried to explain my side of things, she would disappear for a while before coming back with messages that sounded like they had been influenced by conversations with our parents. The silence was actually kind of nice. For the first time in years, I wasn't getting constant requests for money. I wasn't fielding phone calls about various family crises that needed my immediate financial attention. I wasn't spending my weekends listening to people complain about their problems while simultaneously asking me to solve them. I had my evenings to myself. I had my weekends to myself. I could make plans without worrying about whether someone was going to need me to bail them out of some emergency. I started going to yoga classes. I joined a hiking group. I went on a solo weekend trip to a nearby city and had an amazing time exploring museums and trying new restaurants. I also started therapy. I had been thinking about it for a while, but I finally made the appointment. My therapist helped me understand a lot about family dynamics and codependency. She helped me see that what had happened with the vacation wasn't really about the vacation at all. It was about years of being taken for granted and treated as less important than everyone else. She also helped me understand that my family's reaction to my boundaries wasn't really about the money. It was about losing control. They had gotten used to having me as their safety net, their solution to every problem. When I removed myself from that role, it forced them to confront their own issues. About 2 months after the vacation incident, I got a call from my Aunt Carol. She was my mom's sister, and one of the few family members who had seemed to understand my side of the situation. "I wanted you to know that your parents' vacation didn't go well," she said. "They went on a vacation? They scraped together enough money to rent a small cabin for a long weekend, but it was cramped, and everyone was cranky, and Emma's kids were miserable because it wasn't the beach. Apparently, there was a lot of fighting. I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I meant it. I didn't want them to be miserable. I just wanted them to understand that actions have consequences. "Your mom also wanted me to ask you something," Aunt Carol said. "What?" "She wants to know if you'd be willing to have lunch with her." "Just the two of you." "She says she wants to apologize." I thought about it for a moment. Did she actually say she wanted to apologize? Or did she say she wanted to talk? She said apologize. And what did you think about that? Aunt Carol was quiet for a moment. "I think your mother has been doing a lot of thinking about what happened. And I think she's starting to realize that maybe she didn't handle things the right way." I agreed to have lunch with my mom, but I insisted on meeting at a restaurant rather than somewhere private, where she could try to manipulate me with tears and drama. She showed up looking better than she had at my office. She was dressed nicely, her hair was done, and she seemed calmer. We ordered our food and made small talk for a few minutes. Then she took a deep breath. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Okay. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I realized that we hurt you. I realized that we made you feel like you weren't important to us." "I'm listening." "The truth is, we had gotten so used to your help that we started taking it for granted. And we started taking you for granted. We stopped thinking about how our actions affected you. Why did you exclude me from the vacation, Mom?" She looked uncomfortable. "Honestly, your dad thought you'd say no if we asked you to pay for it and not come. He thought you'd think it was unfair." It was unfair. I know that now. But at the time, we were just thinking about logistics. The house only had 4 bedrooms, and everyone else had partners or kids. It seemed like the easiest solution was for you to help pay but not come. And when I said I was looking forward to the vacation, instead of explaining the situation or trying to find a solution, Dad laughed and said it was only for family. That was cruel. I know it was cruel, and I should have said something in that moment. But I didn't. Why not? Because I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed that we needed your money, and I was embarrassed that we were excluding you, and I didn't know how to handle it. We sat in silence for a moment. "I'm sorry, Sarah," she said finally. "I'm sorry for all of it. for taking your money for granted, for excluding you, for not standing up for you when your dad made that comment, for all the times over the years when we made you feel like you weren't as important as everyone else. Thank you, I said. I appreciate the apology. Do you think there's a way we can fix this? I thought about it for a long time before answering. I don't know, Mom. I want to have a relationship with you and the family, but it has to be different. I can't go back to being everyone's ATM, and I can't be around people who think it's okay to exclude me and then laugh about it. I understand. What would you need from us? I need to know that you value me as a person, not just as a source of money. I need to know that if there's a family event, I'm actually invited, not just expected to pay for it. And I need everyone to acknowledge that what happened was wrong. Everyone? Dad needs to apologize for what he said and how he said it. Emma, Chloe, and the twins need to acknowledge that they were wrong to go along with excluding me. My mom nodded slowly. I can talk to them. I'm not asking you to talk to them, Mom. I'm telling you what I need in order to consider rebuilding our relationship. They can make their own choices about whether they want to apologize or not. We finished lunch, and my mom promised to talk to the rest of the family. I told her I needed time to think about everything, and that even if everyone apologized, it would take time to rebuild trust. Over the next few weeks, I got apologies from most of the family. My dad called and gave what seemed like a genuine apology, acknowledging that what he had said was hurtful and that they had been wrong to exclude me. Emma sent a long text message apologizing and asking if we could have coffee to talk. Chloe called crying and apologizing profusely. The twins were more resistant. Jake sent a brief text saying he was sorry I got upset, but didn't really acknowledge that what they had done was wrong. Ryan didn't apologize at all. I decided to start small. I had coffee with Emma, and we had a good conversation about boundaries and expectations. I had dinner with my parents, and while it was awkward, it felt like a step in the right direction. I'm still working on rebuilding relationships with my family, but it's happening slowly and on my terms. I'm no longer their emergency bank account. I'm no longer available to solve every crisis. And I'm no longer willing to accept being treated as less important than everyone else. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.